everyone. This is Jeff Colhane, voice of the Florida State Seminoles, and you're listening to the Phillip Jordan Show podcast.
Back by nobody's demand but our own. Welcome back in to another episode of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am Phillip Jordan. You can check me out over at the Auburn Wire, covering all things Auburn football, basketball, and baseball, and much, much more. We got a fun show playing for you guys here today on the show. On this edition of the show, I'm going to be joined by my old managing editor over when I was with Last Word on College Football. Tony Siracusa will be joining us. We'll go about 40 minutes. We'll talk about Kyle Whittingham being hired at Michigan as new head coach, replacing Sharon Moore. Great hire there by Michigan. I think they're in a better spot with a head coach and not going to have any bad headlines. The headlines will be all about football, winning and losing, whatever happens on the field. They will have a steady team there. He fits from a culture standpoint of what Michigan wants their football team to look like from a physicality standpoint. So this is a really top hire for them. I know the age of 66 is going to be one I think a lot of people will point out, but I also think he will do a really, really good job. Signed a 5-year contract there. It seems like he has a lot of energy and ready to get going with Michigan. And we'll also preview all 4 quarterfinal games. Of course, you will have the first one on Wednesday night when Miami and Ohio State play. And then, of course, the other 3 games will be on Thursday on New Year's Day. So we will talk all about that and more with Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football. You can check out the Phillip Jordan Show podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you're just a straight-up hater. You can also watch the show over at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all the notifications, and please leave a comment on the video. I'll also read those on a future edition as well. You can always email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now let's jump into it with today's featured guest. I've been really excited about this guest I have on. He is Tony Siracusa, the managing editor over at Last Word on College Football. First time this season getting to talk with Tony about all things college football, Michigan into playoff. And Tony, appreciate you coming on.
Nothing like waiting until the end of the season to get in the first appearance, right?
That's it. You got to save the best for last. I'm holding the big time guest.
Oh, all right.
College football playoff.
I'm buying that answer. That's good.
We'll clip that up and we'll send it. I'll tag that clip along for everybody at Last Word to hear that, so they know.
Sounds good.
It has been an interesting year. Obviously, we are now heading into the quarterfinals, and then we get a new coach over the weekend too as well. Kyle Whittingham, and I think Michigan's in a better spot now with a coach than they probably were before. Just what were your thoughts overall on the hire?
I think it's a huge hire for Michigan. I really don't see how they could have done any better than getting Kyle Whittingham. I covered when I was on the West Coast for all those years and covered the Pac-12. I got to know Kyle really well. He's a no-nonsense kind of coach, but I think when you say that to people, they take it as someone who's like a drill sergeant kind of coach. That's not him. He's got a great relationship with his players. He doesn't go in for, he's never going to be confused with Lane Kiffin on social media, or Jim Harbaugh hanging out on social media. He's busy coaching, but he's very good usually with the administration, the boosters, things like that. He had a great career at Utah. And when he stepped down, he made it clear that he wasn't retiring. He was just taking a step back. And now in the days that have come since that happened, we have found out that he was kind of shoved out the door at Utah. Mm-hmm. They've had a coach in waiting for about 6 years, and I guess the coach in waiting was tired of waiting. And I don't see how you do that if you're Utah, how you do that to Kyle Whittingham. You've had two coaches in your history that anybody really remembers: Urban Meyer and Kyle Whittingham.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. What other success or sustained success really can you even come up with that doesn't involve one of those two? So I'm not quite sure what Utah was thinking, but you know what? That's to Michigan's gain. He's 66 years old and he signed a 5-year contract. I got to be honest, I'm going to be surprised if he's there for the full 5 years. I really am. He's obviously much closer to the end of his career than he is to the beginning or even the middle for that matter. But with what he has at his disposal and with the kind of coach he is, and with as fundamentally sound as his programs are, I'm going to say this. If he's there 3 or 4 years, he will be leaving Michigan in a much better situation than when he got there. And I'm going to say that even includes, I know it's going to sound crazy, that includes the Jim Harbaugh era. Because, yeah, Harbaugh won a national championship and so on and so forth, but he also had the NCAA breathing down their necks all the time. He also had some really questionable tactics with the way he went about recruiting, personnel management, certainly administration management. You're not going to get that with Whittingham. Never had the NCAA, in his office once, as far as anyone can remember. And you went from Harbaugh and the chaos, and he won the national championship, and then kind of, beat a hasty path to the NFL before the NCAA really sunk its teeth into the program. And then you got the whole Sharon Moore episode, even before the recent firing. There was the suspension. There was the lack of institutional control. There were all of these things that came about with the program. And you're not going to have that with Kyle Whittingham. You're just not. Give him the 3 to 4 years that I think he'll stay there. And he will be leaving in a better position than it was even under Harbaugh.
Yeah, he finished this year. Utah turnaround. They had a losing record last year, didn't go in 10-2 this year, and physical teams always. And I feel like he's kind of like from a culture and what Michigan kind of wants to be as a program. He fits that, like just the physical nature, run football, great defense. Kind of like what they want to be.
Yeah, I think you hit it perfectly when you said the cultural fit. I think that really is very much the case. They had a bad year last year. They were snake bit at quarterback. I think he was relying on Cam Rising being there for his 10th or 11th year or whatever it was. Rising was playing college football last year.
Ben Wilder there.
Right. And they had the injuries but what you're going to generally see is a very tough, very physical defense, very physical, like you said. They're not going to put up, massive numbers on offense. They're not going to be, a Mike Leach aired out offense. They're going to be a good offense that does well at the skill positions, but really wins the battle up front on the line of scrimmage. That's where they're going to be. And they're going to, like I said, very physical defense. He always had that. Even in the lean years, he always had a very tough defense at Utah. So, man, I was stunned when I heard it because I understood what he said, that he wasn't retiring. He was stepping away. But, man, he stepped away for what, 2 weeks? Whatever it was. It's a great fit. With all Michigan has been through in the last 3 to 4 years, this is going to be a good fit.
Stabilizer the program too. It says get away from that Harbaugh. I think the only headlines he will create will be on the football field. Won't be everything else.
No, you're absolutely right about that. It will it'll be a stabilizing factor, like you said. I think that's the right way to put it. He's a very calming presence out there, and so it will, it'll do well for the program. The one thing I am curious about, and I don't think we know it right now. And I think it's one of those things you find out in time, is how much athletic director Ward Manuel had to do with the hire.
Yeah.
Because, I think after what happened with Sharon Moore, Ward Manuel's job had to be at least under consideration, especially once it came out that he had been told about Sharon Moore's issues, his challenges, months earlier. And his entire investigation was, well, I asked him about it and he denied it. And that was the end, wasn't exactly a Law and Order type investigation, right? So it's, and I know that they talked to the administration, had a conference call one night, and the fact that they didn't fire him led people to believe he was safe, which isn't the case. They've hired an outside law firm to dig deeper into how these things happen. And so I'm curious if the Board of Trustees made the Kyle Whittingham hire, if the school administration made it, if, and what role Ward Manuel played. Because I got to think the school's probably minimizing his impact on these big picture, long-term decisions right now until his future is more settled.
Yeah, I mean, not the same situation, but kind of in a way, kind of the vein maybe of what LSU went through.
Without the governor, without the governor actually, chiming in on stuff. But yeah, your point's well taken. They had to kind of go above the heads of the people in the school administration to the Board of Regents and make decisions at that level.
Hey, I'm just going to say this, not getting political, but in the state I'm in, Alabama, a former Auburn head coach is about to probably be the governor here. So I'm just saying the folks at Auburn better watch it. Tuberville may start throwing his weight around.
Yeah, and the state of Alabama has become the place where sports figures go to run for public office, right?
Well, A.J. McCarron was going to do it, but now he's going to be the head coach of the Birmingham Stallions without any head coaching experience. But we need to transition to the games, because if I start talking about that, I'll get a little bit heated about the A.J. McCarron situation.
All good.
Anybody that's followed me on Twitter or Facebook knows I'm a Stallions guy, and I wasn't a fan of that. But anyways, we got 4 good games coming for New Year's Eve and then New Year's Day. Looking at kind of just going with the order that they're going to,
sure,
and they're going to go. That Miami Ohio State game, at first, and I'm watching this, so it's Miami A&M game, which probably set back offense 20, 30 years. I don't know.
At least, right?
And the kicking game too as well. I thought we were supposed to have better kickers at this level, but more I dig into it, when you look at Miami, they have a really good defense, a lot of guys up front, and they can get after the quarterback, which we saw Indiana do that against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship, Julian Sayin. But, Tony, when I come down to it, when I look at this matchup, I trust Julian Sayin a whole lot more than Carson Beck, because we know this is a guy that he could mess it up. He could throw it into some double covers, make the mistakes. But how are you feeling about this game?
I think you hit on some good points. Look, the Ohio State offensive line gave up 5 sacks to Indiana in the conference championship game. And that would probably alarm you with Miami's defensive line coming into the game. I call me crazy. Miami's defensive line is good. It is not as great as you would think if you only watch a couple of Miami games all year. All right. Akeem Messidor is fantastic. The guy, to me, should be a top 10 draft pick. Where I get stuck with Miami's defensive line is Ruben Bain. And look, he had a huge game against Texas A&M, right? He had 5 tackles and he had 3 sacks. Football Writers Association, which, I live and breathe, with that organization. When we did the All-American team, we put him second team All-American, whereas so many others had him first. And part of the reason is we did a deep dive into his season, not just the reputation, the stats, the last game of the regular season against Pitt. He had, I think, 5 tackles in that game. That's great. Terrific. But you go deeper. In the 5 games prior to that, 5 games, he had a grand total of 6 tackles. In 5 conference games leading up to that season finale, he only had 2 sacks that entire time. He disappears sometimes. He is a physical presence. He is a football presence when he decides to be. But that makes him inconsistent at best, unreliable at worst.
Mm-hmm.
I don't imagine Ohio State's offensive line giving up 5 sacks to Miami the way they did to Indiana. Your point on Carson Beck, 26 touchdowns, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
10 interceptions, leads the ACC among quarterbacks in interceptions. We don't know. Look, we're at the 13th game for Miami this season, and we don't know which Carson Beck shows up from one week to the next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% thrilled with putting my season on with a freshman quarterback or redshirt freshman quarterback. You always wonder if the lights are too bright for them, but Julian Sain is playing really well. And he's been the one thing that Beck hasn't been. He's been consistent throughout the year. He's got the 3,300 yards. He's got more touchdowns. He's got 31 touchdowns. He's only got 6 interceptions. He's got better numbers than the 5th-year senior Beck, who was a preseason Heisman conversation. Miami is going to have to open it up to win. They're going to have to, because Ohio State's offense is that good, especially at the skilled positions. They're just that good. Miami's going to have to open it up, and I think that's probably putting too much on Beck, a little too much reliance on Beck. So I think it's a close game. I think the margin is probably less than 10, but I think Ohio State wins the game.
And Mario Cristobal has been known to mess some things up too.
You've missed the season where I dubbed him Coach Instacart. And the reason for it was this: coaches always say that if they got to coach the game, if they have to, if they have to cook the dinner, which means coaching the game, they want to buy the groceries, which means choose the players. That's fine. He is a good recruiter. He is a good personnel evaluator. They lose 1 to 2 games a year every year because of clock management issues, play calling issues late in the game. And they're usually games that they shouldn't lose, right? So I dubbed him Coach Instacart. He can do the shopping, but keep him out of my kitchen.
So he's Hugh Freeze just with more wins.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I had to figure out a way to get a Hugh shot in there.
You had to get it in there somehow.
You had to get to hear my thoughts on who this year as in past years. So I just had to give you a taste of that.
Absolutely.
This one on Saturday to start things at the Orange Bowl between Oregon and Texas Tech. This is very intriguing because and I think Oregon maybe nationally doesn't get talked about. Their defense doesn't get talked about enough. But Dan Lanning, they're going to be a great defense. But their offensive speed, Dante Moore, if he wants to go pro, this is a first-round pick, top quarterback. But and all year I've had to pinch myself when I look at Texas Tech. They run the football, and they're one of the best defenses in all of college football. I'm like, what alternate universe did I get dropped in? Because this has just never been who they are. I mean, they're good offensively too, but you got Rodriguez, that linebacker, defense player of the year in the Big 12. Bailey also 13.5 sacks. You got Pollock in the secondary that can, he's a threat to pick the ball off. But very interesting group of these guys.
To me, out of the 4 games, this is my favorite game. This is the one I'm most eager to watch. It's ironic because of the way the playoff system works and which seeds go to which bowl games for the quarterfinals is predetermined regardless of who's in it. And it should be that way. But you got Oregon and Texas Tech going all the way to Florida, to play their game when they probably could have played at, the Rose Bowl or something like that. But that issue aside, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most. And really for Oregon's offense against the Texas Tech defense. I just think that is such an interesting matchup. Dante Moore, man, talk about someone who rescued himself from oblivion when he left Chip Kelly in UCLA. When, because, if you haven't seen much of Dante Moore, the guy is a drop back quarterback with a big arm. And Chip Kelly was trying to run a spread offense with him at UCLA. And it was funny. I was actually getting, as Moore was going through the consideration of leaving UCLA, I was getting DMs from his grandmother about what he was thinking in the process. And look, you also have to give the guy some credit because he went to Oregon knowing he was not going to start. He went to Oregon knowing he was going to sit behind Dylan Gabriel and learn Dan Lanning's offense. And it worked. It worked for everybody. You don't see that kind of maturity in the transfer portal very much, right? You see guys, I hate the phrase, I hate it with a passion, but they're getting the bag, right? And they're going to start and cash out. This guy went for his future, what it meant for his future. And I can respect that. He's and I think Oregon is getting healthy at wide receiver. They've had some injuries in the last few weeks of the regular season. But Gary Bryant has been practicing with the team in recent days. DeCorian Moore, same thing, has been active at practice. So they both should play. That gives him the weapons he needs on the outside. They lead the country in plays over 20 yards. And they're number two. You pointed out it's not just airing it out. They've got a good run game also. They're number two in yards average per rush in the country. So they're averaging almost 500 yards a game combined. And it's tremendously balanced. It's like 250 and 245, somewhere in there. So it's a balanced offense. Moore's got 3,000 yards passing. He's got his 28 touchdowns. He's really good. Now, this is going to be the best defense he's faced all season. No disrespect to Indiana, who went into Eugene and beat Oregon. No disrespect. This defense from Texas Tech is staggering. I'm at the Bronco Nagurski dinner every year, and so I had the chance to meet Jacob Rodriguez as he won the Nagurski for Defensive Player of the Year. And when you watch the film on this guy as we were voting for him, man, he just really is that good. He is that much of a complete player. And like you said, you throw in David Bailey, who's a huge playmaker. He actually, as good as Rodriguez is, Bailey leads the team in sacks with 13 and a half sacks. It's a really, really good defense. I think they're going to give Moore all he can handle. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to pick this game. I really don't. I think Oregon's offense gives them a slight edge, but not a big one. I think this is probably the closest game out of all of them this weekend. And I think Oregon wins, but I'm going to not be surprised at all if Texas Tech pulls it out. This defense is just impressive.
And, it is a great coaching job in the sense by McGuire that he's changed how we look at Texas Tech too.
Yeah.
Like never before him, you would look at them as this would be this kind of team. They were always, even way after Mike Leach had left Texas Tech, they were always looked at the air raid, throw it all over the place. Patrick Mahomes, you score 50, but you still lose, because you gave up 60, those kind of games. And
they absolutely never had this kind of defense before. And when Leach was there, or Cliff Kingsbury, or it was just air it out and let it go. Now, you and I have been doing this long enough to know there was a lot of money invested in the program. Yes. Cody Campbell did what he needed to do, and there was a lot of money in the program to put this kind of roster together. But I'm going to say even before the roster this year, you could see Joey McGuire making a difference in the style of play, in the expectations in Lubbock. Then once he had the resources to get what he needed, boy, it made all the difference in the world, right?
And it kind of jumps to the next one, talking about changing how people look at a team. Alabama playing Indiana out at the Rose Bowl. It'll be the mid-afternoon game between these two.
Right.
Indiana 7-point favorite. And trust me, obviously I'm in the state. Listening to Sports Talk Radio here, the Alabama fans are just convinced that the Alabama helmets are going to scare Indiana. I'm listening to them like, you guys haven't watched Indiana play. They don't care about that. I love what Kurt Sidnetti says. I forget which game it was. He said, this is the first time your team had won here. He goes, well, this team had never played here before.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Like, we'd never gotten that far before. It had never mattered,
Yeah, like nothing that this program has had in its past matters, which it really doesn't with any of these teams. And, this is probably the point of the show. I'm going to get myself in trouble with Alabama.
Better you than me, brother.
Knowing who, I write for the Auburn Wire. Alabama can't run the football. And that's always where I go back to this thing. And they beat Oklahoma. I thought they could beat Oklahoma because they moved the ball on the first time they played. They just turned the ball over. 17-0. I'm sitting there watching, okay, Kalen the board might just not need to go back to Tuscaloosa to go take that job of Michigan if they want them. But they turned around. Ty Simpson had a good, showing after 17-0 in the second half and all that stuff there. But whenever I look at this game, Indiana's a good defense. Fernando Mendoza is not going to turn the ball over like Mateer did. They're going to run the ball. They've got better playmakers. They're a good defense, like I said. I just come back to Alabama can't run the ball. That's my biggest concern, and I just feel like Cignetti, this coaching staff, this team is going to expose Alabama. Just what's your thoughts of going into this one with these two?
I have the same concerns about Alabama you do. I mean, they ran for 28 yards against Oklahoma on 25 rushes. I mean, holy cow! You got to wonder. And there's no point looking too far in the rearview mirror. If you're Alabama, you want to look ahead. But if John Mateer plays a better game or hits that big downfield pass towards the end of the game, we might be looking at Indiana, Oklahoma instead. Alabama was a little too close to the edge on that. You're not going to get to Fernando Mendoza the way you did to Mateer. I don't know. Look, I don't know if Mateer's hand was still, bothering him or not or whatever. Fernando Mendoza nothing phases this guy. He is as calm, cool, and collected back there as you could ever want in a quarterback. And that's the way the offense runs. Even when, you look back at the Penn State game, which they won, in the closing seconds, you look at how calm Mendoza was on that last drive. There was no running around. There was no scrambling for his life. There was no excitability. He got to the line very calm, ran the offense, threw one of the greatest passes with one of the greatest catches of the season. And that's just who he is. I think the defense is better than what Indiana generally gets credit for on a national basis. Look, man, these guys went to Autzen Stadium. They went to Oregon and beat the Ducks by 10. That's impressive as can be. Now, apparently, we're going to get something which is relatively unheard of on New Year's Day in Pasadena. Rain. It's supposed to rain on game day. That is going to make a little bit of a difference in the Indiana offense because they do rely on the passing game more than they do the run game. It is, I know the people in Pasadena and talking to people online and stuff, man, they don't know what to do with themselves. To make it clear how rare this is, because, they got the world famous Rose Parade right before the game. To make it clear how rare this is, it has rained 4 times on the Rose Parade in the last 82 years. They don't get rain on New Year's Day. It's cold. It might rain the day before and the day after, but the people in Pasadena always believe that, the good Lord made sure that you get the parade and the game in without the rain, but it's supposed to rain on New Year's Day there. So to me, if Alabama ran the ball better than they do, that would give them a better chance. I still like Indiana, even in the rain. I still like Indiana in this game by probably about 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's defense is good. I mean, they have a solid group
Sure.
there, so they'll stay in it because of that. But in Alabama's run game, I think now I'm not going to count Eastern Illinois. I mean but like dating back to like several, I think it started with the South Carolina game. They have not, other than against Auburn, which really the run game only worked for about a quarter and a half. Auburn and DJ Durkin kind of slowed that down in the second half. They haven't went over 100 yards outside of that game. So
and look, Alabama. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Alabama is still Alabama. They really are.
Yeah.
The helmets are not going to intimidate anybody. But look, they still have more NFL parts. They still have the depth and the size that that is far superior than a lot of other schools. Indiana's past that now. This isn't a one-year fluke. They're in year 2 under Cignetti of being an extraordinarily good team and a veteran team. They're not going to get phased by Alabama.
Real quick before we jump to the final one, but Sugar Bowl. When you look at Indiana, we saw what they did last year, and then the 2 best teams they played, they got beat handily when they played Ohio State and Notre Dame. So coming into this year, obviously, change of quarterback, different parts coming in. What was your expectation for them? Did you think maybe last year it was a 1-year thing and then they were going to kind of fall back this year, or did you kind of expect? I don't think nobody expected what they were this year, but just kind of what was your preseason expectations for them?
I still thought they were good enough to be a top 2 or 3 team in the Big Ten. I didn't think last year was a 1-year runoff because Curt Cignetti's a very good coach. And when he brought whatever it was, 23 players from James Madison with him, it made it a veteran team. And a veteran team with players who knew what he was looking for, what the expectations were. They got the upgrade at quarterback. And that made all the difference in the world. That made all the difference in the world. In him being able to run the offense that he was looking to run. And so they surpassed my expectations for them were high, to answer your question. They surpassed them anyway.
Yeah, and Fernando Mendoza made me look like an idiot because I remember before the season started, I saw him high on the draft board. I'm like, I thought him play for Cal against Auburn. I mean, he's a statue. He's all right. And then,
I think, and look, 2 things about his time at Cal. One, I give him tons of credit in his Heisman speech, thanking the people at Cal for giving him his starting shot. Because for people who are looking at him going, who is this guy? Where did he come from? He had 0 FBS scholarship offers coming out of high school. He was about to go to Harvard, or was it Yale? Whatever. I'm sure that matters to the people at Yale and Harvard, but for the sake of our conversation here, it doesn't matter.
I don't think I have a huge audience with those 2 schools, so I think we're good.
Your Ivy League following is lacking right now. But look, he was going to the Ivy League to play football and go to school because that was his option. He got a late in the game offer from Justin Wilcox. That's 1. 2, the fact that he didn't look good at quarterback playing for Justin Wilcox is not a surprise to anybody. Justin Wilcox has been a defensive coach all of his life. Every year, he still showed up at Pac-12 media days or later ACC media days. We were all a little surprised that he was still there. His offenses at Cal were never good. It was he could never find the right offensive coordinator. For what
definitely this past year. Sorry,
yeah. So I only put a slight blame on Mendoza for how he looked at Cal because frankly every quarterback under Justin Wilcox looked mediocre to poor.
Well, didn't want to play for Brian Harsin either, so that was another one.
Right. Yeah, don't blame him there either.
I worked Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin into this podcast.
You did.
So
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
I didn't even mean to do the Harsin part. It just kind of happened. Anyways.
I bring it out of you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's been plenty of discussions and some DMs about my disdain for Brian Harsin, the worst ever head coach at Auburn University. Anyways.
Hard to argue.
At least Hugh recruited. That's all I got to say. Hugh Freeze recruited.
Right.
The rest of it didn't work, but he recruited. Real quick, the last game, the Sugar Bowl, Georgia and Ole Miss, these two played each other early in the year 43-35. Something tells me Georgia's not about to give up 35 points because their defense has played really well toward the end of the year. And it's like all year, it's like this is a team that I don't know how many times at halftime, they've got Georgia. I want to know what Kirby Smart says to his team in the locker room because you notice the SEC Netflix show, you didn't see much of Georgia. So we don't know what Kirby does. I
noticed that when we were watching it. My wife was watching it with me, being the huge Southern regional college football fan that she's been all of these years. And she actually asked that. She said, where's Kirby in this show? Why are we not seeing Georgia? And I'm like, I'm only assuming they didn't grant very much access, to the program. And, whatever Kirby does at halftime, man, he could sell that to coaches all over the country because it works. Look, to your point, Georgia is in trouble a lot in the first half. And by being in trouble, the game is closer than it should be. Teams are picking up more yards than they should against Georgia. But at the end of the day, Georgia's on a nine-game winning streak going into this game. And for a very good reason. It is a good second-half team. Ole Miss has won 6 straight. They beat up on Tulane, as expected in the first round game. But here's the thing, too. Remember, Georgia got knocked out in its first game last year. Kirby complained about having to play in the SEC championship game. He should be resting the team, getting healthy, whatever. I think there is a part of Georgia that remembers that well. Not that there's any pressure on Kirby, because there isn't. Kirby can lose this weekend. Still no pressure on Kirby. But there's probably a little bit of that, nasty sour taste in your mouth still from what happened last year. I think here's the thing too, is that Georgia did a really good job in the first game, the first matchup, even though, like you said, and I agree with you, they're not giving up 35 points again. But offensively, they controlled the pace of the game really well. Gunnar Stockton was effective in the short to intermediate passing game and allowed Georgia to control the tempo and the pace of the game. I expect to see that times 5, times 10, to some other multiple this time out. I don't expect this game to be anywhere near as close as the first matchup was.
I will say this with the way the bracket came out. I don't foresee Miami upsetting Ohio State.
No.
But how good from a media and everybody out there covering this sport would it be to see Miami versus Georgia in the next round? With Carson Beck?
It would be great. It'd be compelling. I just don't think there's much chance.
I don't either. I don't either.
I think Georgia controls the Ole Miss game. I think they probably win by, more than 2 touchdowns. I think they pull away in the fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss has been a great story, but I don't think they really got the weapons overall to hang with Georgia in a playoff game like this. So I think Georgia goes on to win this pretty easily.
Yeah, I know it's not a deal where they beat Georgia the first time, but they did, like you said, score a lot of points. I think Kirby's going to look at it as a challenge too. Kind of he has replaced Nick Saban as that guy that's kind of like, okay, what you meet them twice. It's not probably going to work out for you. So it's going to be a fun day, 2 days really with the
it'll be a fun weekend.
on Wednesday, and we'll see how this goes. And Tony, it's been a lot of fun. I've kept you a lot longer than I probably thought.
It's all good, man. I'm always happy to hang with you anytime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You gave me the opportunity to insult Brian Harsin, so I just appreciate that.
It's you and I go back a few years. I figure it's the least I can do is let you get your Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin digs in one show.
That's it. So, I wasn't mean Alabama either. So it was an accomplished interview. But it was Tony. Appreciate you coming on. Where can listeners, viewers check out online and tell us about Last Word on College Football?
Yeah, you can go to lastwordonsports.com and click on the college football link, and we've got a group of really talented writers. We've been covering all the bowl games. When I say all the bowl games, I mean all of them. We've got a preview of every single one of them that has gone up in the days leading up to the games. We've got the coverage after the game. We've got I will actually be at the Duke's Mayo Bowl on Friday, so looking forward to seeing a coach getting dumped in Nevada mayonnaise. That's just disgusting on so many levels. I don't care how much you like Duke's mayonnaise. That's just gross. Anyway, you can also find us on Twitter, X, whatever, and Blue Sky at Last Word on CFB. You can find me on there at Tony Bruin. Last Word also has an Instagram page and a Facebook page. So we've got in-depth coverage of all of this going on. And we will as well be starting Friday when the transfer portal opens up. We'll have a lot of in-depth coverage of that as well.
As the sport of college football never ends, and you guys do have the best bowl coverage. That's someone that was there with you guys
for years, man. You were part of it for years.
Yeah, absolutely. Always missed the team, but Tony, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward when we get to do this again.
All right, Phil. Take care, man. Be well.
All right. Once again, thanks to Tony Siracusa for coming on the show. I had a lot of fun doing that. Great to catch up with Tony. And look, I wrote for Last Word on College Football for years. Go check them out. They do a great job covering college football. They've got, as he said, all the bowls. They'll have on be on top of it, transfer portal. A lot of great writers over there. And I don't think I ever said this on air. I appreciate my time. I learned a lot about writing. I'm a better writer for my time spent there. And just go check them out. Last Word on College Football. You will not be disappointed with their coverage. I'm still checking them out all the time. Everything they are doing over there. For me, going into the quarterfinals, my picks, I like Ohio State to beat Miami. I think the Miami defense has players, if they play up to the potential, as we talked about there with Tony, I think they can keep the game close, maybe perhaps get some pressure on Julian Sand, but Ohio State's just got too many weapons at the skill position players, and I think Ohio State will win the game. I think Carson Beck's going to make a big mistake. It's late in the game interception that really puts Ohio State over the top in that one. As for the Texas Tech-Oregon game, this is something I didn't even talk about in our conversation. This is one of them games I really wish they had the second round, the quarterfinals, at the campuses instead of at bowls. I really hope they just get away from that in the future. But I really would like to see Lubbock. I don't think even on TV they've been great. But they're playing there down in the Orange Bowl in this one. I'm going to go with Oregon. I like their speed. I think they're good enough defensively. Dante Moore, quarterback. I'm just not so sure all the times with Texas Tech offensively. And as great as a defense they are, have they really met up with a team as explosive as Oregon during the season? I think it's going to be a good game. And I think all 4 of these games will be competitive come down to the fourth quarter. I believe that. We're not going to need blowouts, I don't think, here in this round. But I'm going to go with Oregon. I think Oregon really is the fourth best team in the country behind Indiana, Ohio State, and Georgia. And then I think it's Oregon. They just put – I don't know, maybe the committee didn't want to put the 3 of the top 4 out of the Big Ten. And Texas Tech deserved the 4th spot. So I'm not saying they didn't, but I think Oregon's just a tad better than them. So I'm going to go with Oregon to win that one. Alabama and Indiana, it just comes down to, and I hit that point a couple times, Tony. the Alabama lack of being able to run the ball, I think they got away with it against Oklahoma because Oklahoma's offense isn't great. Indiana has the Heisman Trophy winner. They've got players on the outside. They can run the ball when they want to. They would rather throw it, but they can run it when they have to. They're there defensively with all these other teams. All these teams really playing this week are good on the defensive side of the football. Except Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the weak link defensively of these 8 teams remaining. I'm going to go with Indiana win a close game, like a 20-13 game, maybe something like that. But it's just right now. And until Alabama can show me they can run the ball. I picked them against Oklahoma because I thought in the regular season they outplayed Oklahoma, except with the turnovers. But if Alabama does not find some kind of running game, and I think Indiana will see that and the pressure they put on Julian saying they're going to come after Ty Simpson. I just think that's going to be what determines this game. Then finally, Georgia and Ole Miss. Of course, it was that high-scoring 43-35 game. I don't think Ole Miss is scoring 35 points in this one. This Georgia defense has been really, really good here lately, keeping teams under 10 points or less. And Gunnar Stockton running, throwing. They're going to want to run the ball with Frazier. Ole Miss is not a good run defense. I think Georgia's just going to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I think they will stop the Ole Miss running game, and then Trinidad Chambers is going to have to win this game off himself almost because I think the running backs will be taken out of the game by Georgia, and I think Georgia will win. So I think our semifinals will be 3 out of the 4 are going to come from the Big Ten. We're going to get Oregon and Indiana in a rematch from earlier in the year, and then we're going to get Georgia versus Ohio State. And I think those will be some really good games. And again, these games are all going to be great. Trust me, at the end of the day, I may write for the Auburn Wire, but I'm an SEC guy. I am hoping Alabama wins, but I just don't think they will. I mean, I'm not supposed to show favoritism toward a conference or all that, but you know what? It's the Phillip Jordan Show. We do what we want here. That's how I see all that going down. We do have some big NFL games coming up this week as well. Kind of have a little playoff flair to them a little bit. The last week of the regular season, I'm not even going to look at the past week because the Packers lost, and I'm just trying to forget everything that happened. We will have the Panthers and the Buccaneers playing on Saturday. Buccaneers just have not played well second half of the year. Panthers are playing well too. Just what a great story with Bryce Young. I know he's not really playing great ball, but he's playing good enough football for them to win games. He was written off a few years ago. I think Carolina wins. I think they're going to win the division, but Atlanta kind of made things interesting. I'm recording this actually not too long after Monday Night Football went off, and Atlanta beat the Rams. And there's a situation where the Falcons, if they win on Sunday, that could also determine some things on how things go Saturday between night games. So some interesting stuff there. Falcons can't make the playoffs, but they can almost have a say-so in who does from the NFC South. We will have the Rams the 49ers and the Seahawks playing. I think the Seahawks will win that game. I like the 49ers offensively. Their defense is not great, giving up 38 points to the Bears. They gave up a lot of yards the week before against Old Man Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts. So they're giving up a lot of yards, but they're scoring. I mean, no one can stop them. And what they did on Sunday night, winning 42-38 without Kittle in the lineup too. McCaffrey had a big game. Of course, Brock Purdy had a big game. But I like the Seattle defense better, and they're going to score some points against the 49ers off defense because the 49ers right now are struggling. But I think Seattle will win that and get the number 1 seed in the NFC. And then the NFC North Championship will be decided between the Ravens and the Steelers. I hate to say this. As a Packers fan and a guy that's been rooting for Aaron Rodgers this year, look, he's a weird dude off the field. We know that. We can get a whole different topic on that. Been rooting for him being a former Packer and all that stuff. But the DK Metcalf not being there, I think hurt them against the Browns. I think it's going to hurt them against the Ravens. And we'll see Lamar Jackson's going to be able to give it a go. He didn't against the Packers, which Derrick Henry did what he did. They beat the Ravens earlier, but I think the Ravens will win this game on Sunday. So a lot of interesting football this week. I hope everybody has a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Stay safe, do all the right things as always. But I hope everybody has a great time doing that. Watching football, hanging out with family, friends, just doing whatever you normally do for New Year's. And enjoy the football. We'll be back next week for another podcast. And we'll be looking ahead to the semifinals of the college football playoff, of course. And I'm going to try to bring somebody in. We're going to preview the wildcard round of the NFL in an episode of podcast next week. So only one episode this week. That's why I wanted to throw those 3 NFL games in there at the end here as well. Remember to follow me on social media. You see it on the screen, P. Jordan Sports, podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And also YouTube, Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Hit subscribe button, bell for all notifications. And also email me, sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Anyways, everybody have a happy new year. I hope everybody had a great Christmas too as well. Didn't say that at the top. But anyways, be back in 2026 for more episodes of the Phillip Jordan Show. So as always, let kindness be your compass. Until next time. Bye-bye.